Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 8 must-start and must-sit wide receivers for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, we'll begin by discussing my must-start wide receivers of the week, and then about halfway into the video, we're going to be pivoting into my must-sit wide receivers based upon their matchups for week number 8. But before we can get on into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure to leave a like on today's video. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 8 must start and must sit wide receivers. We begin with the must start category, headlined by Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills, this week going up against the Miami Dolphins at home in Buffalo. Emmanuel Sanders is currently the wide receiver number 23 in half PPR. On the season, he has gotten over 6 targets in 5 out of the last 6 games. With Cole Beasley taking the backseat this season to Emmanuel Sanders, it appears that Emmanuel Sanders is the clear number 2 wide receiver on the team behind Stefon Diggs. Last year, all season long, it was the Cole Beasley and Stefon Diggs show. Stefon Diggs was Batman, Cole Beasley was Robin. This year, Stefon Diggs, he's still Batman. I know he hasn't had all that great of a season, but he's still the guy. And then the number 2, the Robin, is going to be Emmanuel Sanders. And this week, and for at least the next couple of games, the Buffalo Bills are going to be without tight end Dawson Knox, which should give even more opportunity to Emmanuel Sanders to get the ball even more, especially in the red zone, which is Dawson Knox's bread and butter. He just scores so many touchdowns basically every single game. In Sanders' last game up against the Tennessee Titans, he had 5 receptions on 8 targets for 91 yards, as well as a touchdown. This week, he goes up against the Miami Dolphins, and that defense has fallen off the edge of the earth. They went from one of the best pass defenses in the NFL last season, they're forcing all these turnovers, to being ranked 26th in pass defense via DVOA. Expect another strong showing out of Emmanuel Sanders this week up against the Miami Dolphins. This is about as easy of a matchup as it gets for the Buffalo Bills. In the last 2 years, the Buffalo Bills have absolutely shit on the Miami Dolphins defense, so I expect Emmanuel Sanders to have a huge showing in this game. Next up, we got Courtland Sutton, wide receiver of the Denver Broncos, going up against the Washington football team at home in Denver. Many will be nervous to start Courtland Sutton. They might be shivering a little bit because Jerry Jeudy is on the return. And great, Jerry Jeudy's back. That's going to be great for the offense, but in my opinion, there should really be no worry about Courtland Sutton with Jerry Jeudy back, because I believe that Courtland Sutton has clearly earned a role inside of this offense with Teddy Bridgewater. Last week, up against the Cleveland Browns, Sutton, as well as the whole Denver Broncos team, had a down game, having 5 receptions on 5 targets in that game for 68 yards. 1 more yard off of being very nice with 69. This week, they will be facing a much softer matchup up against the 29th ranked pass defense via DVOA in the Washington football team. This game could easily be a higher scoring back and forth affair if the Washington football team are able to keep up. So I expect Courtland Sutton to put up another solid performance this week up against the Washington football team and have a bounce back for that sad game up against the Cleveland Browns. Final must-start player of the week at the wide receiver position is Robert Woods, wide receiver of the LA Rams, going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. Despite a very tough start to the season, very tough is exactly how I would describe it, because Robert Woods went from being one of the most talked up wide receivers in fantasy football. Robert Woods has top 12 potential. He could be a top 5 wide receiver. He's going to be so amazing with Matthew Stafford, to him being left dead in the dirt in favor of Cooper Kupp. And Cooper Kupp deserves all the praise. I'm being honest. He deserves all the hype, because the guy is fucking amazing. But I think people are continuing to sleep on Robert Woods, and they don't sing the praises of Robert Woods the same way they do for Cooper Kupp. And I believe people need to be very excited to start Robert Woods this week up against the Houston Texans. Last week, up against the Detroit Lions, he had 6 receptions on 6 targets for 70 yards. The Rams offense is showing 0 signs of slowing down at all, and I believe Robert Woods could have one of his best games of the season this week up against the Houston Texans in Houston. But before we can get into pivoting into the must-sit wide receivers, I would like to let you guys know that we have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NFL season to bring you guys some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited-time offer, which gets you guys 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link down below, deposit, and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we'll reach out to you via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access access because you want to play today, that's okay as well. All you got to do is email support@awesemo.com and we will get you set up immediately. You can also claim a free $10 below, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give your guys the best shot at winning on Yahoo Fantasy. So make sure you guys do go ahead and check that out. Now, we'll pivot into the must-sit category at the wide receiver position, headlined by Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns, going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Odell has been a mainstay in the must-sit wide receiver category, but I pivoted off of him last week because, hey, it seemed like he wasn't going to play up against the Denver Broncos. But instead, he decides to play, and he doesn't play very well. Odell Beckham Jr. was a guy that everyone somehow magically talked themselves into drafting this offseason, despite seeing Odell Beckham Jr. never really have a good season, never really have all that many good games in a Cleveland Browns uniform. People continued to talk themselves into him because, hey, he's still that guy that made that crazy catch up against the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just not too sure how much of that is still left in Odell Beckham Jr. He's the wide receiver number 75 in half PPR in points per game because he hasn't played in every game. So I tried to make it fair, right? We look at the points per game metric. He's still shit. And people continue to try to spread the hype of Odell Beckham Jr. They continue to try to start him, but that should not be the case. His name value, in my opinion, should no longer be present in 2021. Whether the quarterback is Case Keenum or it's Baker Mayfield, it does not matter really at all in my opinion. Beckham has topped 10 points just twice this season, and there's no promise of him returning to that former glory. Until Beckham shows any fantasy value, he should remain on your bench. This week up against the Pittsburgh Steelers is also a tough matchup, so if you needed even more reassurance to sit Odell Beckham Jr., think about the matchup, and just think about the fact that he hasn't been very good, and think about the fact that Nick Chubb is back, and they're going to want to be running the ball all over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Next must-sit wide receiver is Tyler Lockett, wide receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Seattle. Early on the season, Tyler Lockett was on fire. This man had two 20-plus point performances in the first two games, but after that roller coaster, it was a tall climb. He was going up and up and up, and then he went straight down into the depths of the dirt because this guy has not done anything for fantasy football over the last couple of games besides in week number 1 and week number 2. Now, with Geno Smith at the helm, instead of Russell Wilson, things get even more confusing. Things get even worse. Last week up against the Saints, he had just 3 targets on 2 receptions for 12 yards. Even with the Jaguars ranking 32nd, 32, that's dead last in pass DVOA. They are terrible up against the pass. There's no reason to start Lockett. I understand. But Nick, all it takes is one deep ball. He catches that deep ball, and then everything is forgotten. He'll be fine. And sure, that is the case. That was the case with Russell Wilson. This guy could be taking a shit in your lineup all game long, and then right at the end of the game, he catches that deep ball, and everything is saved. And that was possible with Russell Wilson, but with Geno Smith, do you really see that as being possible? Because I don't, because Geno Smith doesn't look very good, even up against the Jags. I expect him to have a bad game, and I just do not believe you can trust Tyler Lockett. So until Russell Wilson returns, Tyler Lockett should be sat on your bench. Next up, we move to the final must-sit wide receiver of today's video, Corey Davis, wide receiver of the New York Jumbo Jets, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals at home in MetLife Stadium. It finally felt like everything was starting to go the way of the Jets, especially the way of Corey Davis, because once Jamison Crowder ends up returning, then we start seeing everything change. The tide has shifted. It's finally going to be Corey Davis season. The offense looks like it's going well. And then all of those hopes have been destroyed by the Zach Wilson injury. Even though Zach Wilson hasn't looked great this season, I understand, he hasn't looked amazing, but he's still an all-right quarterback, and it made me comfortable at least enough to start Corey Davis. But now, Mike White is under center. Mike White is the starting quarterback of the Jets, and all of that comfort where I felt just good enough to start Corey Davis, where I felt just good enough to start Jamison Crowder, is completely gone. It's just gone. Last week up against the Patriots, Corey Davis had 4 receptions on 6 targets for 47 yards and a touchdown. The touchdown saved the day. I don't feel as though Corey Davis is going to play very good at all up against the Cincinnati Bengals. That Bengals defense looks legit. They really do, and this Jets offense looks the opposite of legit. This Jets offense looks like a complete and utter fucking dumpster fire. It looked bad with Zach Wilson. Just imagine how bad it's going to look in this game with a whole game of Mike White. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like on today's video as well. I love you guys all so much. I hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.